Michael S. Williamson, Washington Post. Assad Ultra, Walker pauses while working on a graffiti art piece in Washington, D.C. by Anthony J. Rivera, Washington Post. Washington, Assad Walker remembers how he used to take one last look around before shaking his Krylon spray paint can hard. The ball inside would knock about, shattering the quiet night. With a friend standing watch, Walker would paint his tag, Ultra, in big letters on a wall. It was more than scribbles. The multicolored script seemed to pop from the surface, and he tried to place it in perfect view of morning pedestrians on the street. Ad choice advertising and read invented by Teedscape breaking news, sports, entertainment and other free email newsletters. Check out the full list and sign up now. Walker was a graffiti king in Washington, D.C., during the 1990s. His tag was found in thousands of places. His crew, KGB, often referred to as Crazy Graffiti Brothers, was one of the most feared among vandals at the time. The crew is still organized and remains one of the oldest in the District of Columbia. But U.S. has changed, the 51-year-old Walker recently said. In much of the city, traditional graffiti has given way to street art, a more tamed, often legal version of the activity. Crews like KGB have evolved, former members said. They're more likely to come up with designs for murals or crafting canvas art than bombing, a term for blanketing an area with tags. Or as one current member and muralist put it, everyone softens up when you get older. Walker is of an era represented by some of the city's legendary figures. There was former Mayor Marion Barry, Go-Go Godfather Chuck Brown and news anchor Jim Vance, all of whom have died in recent years. Even the graffiti community lost a major hero with the death of Cool Disco Dan, well known among taggers and one of Walker's close friends. He's not proud of everything he did in his time on the streets and does not downplay crimes from his past, saying he should have been buried under the jail. Today Walker is different. He makes a living teaching art and has become one of the area's foremost authorities in graffiti-style art without the intent of vandalism. I started painting on the street in the early 80s, Walker told one of his classes last year. Now, with my life, I just do art. The oldest of three, Assad Walker was born John Holland Walker in Baltimore. When he was a child, his family moved to Washington, where his brother and sister were born. He described his home life as unsteady, becoming more so once his parents separated. As a kid, he often ran away or snuck out of the house at night to wander. Eventually, his behavior landed him with a relative in New Hampshire who Walker says physically abused him. When Walker turned 16 years old, he said he ran away from there too. But it was on train rides between New Hampshire and Washington that Walker saw graffiti splashed on the tunnels and walls, piquing his interest. As a teenager, he toyed with tagging while frequenting downtown clubs. After trying out various names, he settled on one stemming from the Japanese science fiction superhero, Ultraman, a show he used to watch. From left, Khalil Powder, Amir Frost and Andres Paredes Vincent honed their skills as graffiti artists on a practice wall where old-school graffiti artist Assad Ultra Walker teaches art in Washington, D.C. Catherine Frey, Washington Post. Walker has only been arrested for graffiti once. But over the years, he built a long rap sheet, trespassing, theft and assault with a deadly weapon. A police profile said he was prone to violence. Some people he crossed paths with more than 20 years ago recall times he attacked them. Back in the 80s and early 90s, Hugh Carew, a former Washington, D.C. police detective, took an interest in taggers while investigating robberies and assaults. but he said law enforcement had more pressing crimes than destruction of property. "I don't think the city took it real seriously in the beginning," he said. "Many involved in graffiti took advantage. They covered neighborhoods with monikers like R.E. Randy, Scratchmaster Kyle, SMK, or Joker, and ran with crews with names like .com, Hoods of Our Twa, or Furious Fighting Crew, FFC. Maybe he was my fiercest competitor," said Martin Castro, a member of Walker's crew who went by Cast. Both worked at the Safari Club together, now closed. He admired Walker's knack for placement. His spots had to count, so he made his spots count. Some crew members said they recognized that Walker, who converted to Islam in his 20s, was more artistic than them despite his tough demeanor. They described his work as clean, and free of unnecessary wiggles and squiggles. In KGB's heyday, Washington was home to underground punk, hardcore, hip-hop and go-go music scenes, all with their own taggers. Walker had connections with everyone. By the time he was locked up in Lorton, Virginia, prison on a 1997 gun charge, he had left an indelible mark on the city's tagging culture. "Ultra is that one guy who transcended every major subculture movement in D.C., said Joseph Pattisell, who directed the documentary, The Legend of Cool Disco Dan, which featured Walker. "Ultra is this guy who took it so far for so long, and it's incredible," he said. But after 5 years behind bars and on parole, Walker said he wanted to take a different approach for his kids. He had 6 children and knew he hadn't always been a positive role model. After his release, he began to use his talent for legal work in studios, open walls and event spaces. A fan of airbrushing, he adorned clothing with his favorite superheroes. He also found his way to canvases, but his abilities with aerosol really got his fellow artists' attention. "I would say he's masterful with his use of spray paint," said Alex Goldstein, owner and operator of the Fridge Art venue on Capitol Hill. Walker once worked as the associate gallery director for the space, running day-to-day operations and curating shows. "His work is very, very bold and aggressive," Goldstein said. These days, Mazi Mustafa, executive director of Words Beats. Assad is a DC graffiti pioneer, Mustafa said. Jasmine Martinez, a 17-year-old from Washington, loves to draw. 2 years ago she enrolled in a class Walker taught at Words Beats. Old-school graffiti artist Assad Ultra Walker, right in back, watches as his students including Andres Paredes Vincent, Center and Amir Frost hone their graffiti skills on a practice wall in Washington, D.C. Catherine Frey, Washington Post. She emerged with this takeaway: never erase. Move forward and incorporate mistakes. Fix it, make it work, make it fit in, she said. And I've done that a lot and it's helped me become better. The lesson seems to pull straight from Walker's days scribbling on walls, where the pressures of tagging required quick thinking. As a teacher, he lectures on the mechanics behind aerosol paint, describing the inner workings of a can, with its balance of gas and liquid. He ties street art and graffiti to other types of art, like calligraphy or comics. He even tries to open students' minds to gallery management and curating shows, his old responsibilities at the Fridge. In the classroom, Walker works to create a safe space for students to learn and express themselves without judgment. Former pupils have said he is kind of a goof or a big kid, but he inspires them. Keep your art eyes open, he told one of his fall classes. Francis Wells, another former student, recalled Walker's lessons going beyond art. He focused on becoming more aware of the variety of ways that you could sort of push yourself into different directions to do things maybe you wouldn't immediately thought of doing, he said. Parents are aware of Walker's background, the kids say. Any concerns are outweighed by his ability to stoke his students' passion for art. It just shows the fact that, you know, everybody makes mistakes, Martinez said. But he's teaching us how to do art legally and get paid for it. Today, bushels of black and gray hair flow from Walker's head and the tattoo on his wrist of Cambodian script is fading. He lives with 3 of his children and is often seen with his youngest son, Ethan, at his side, at street art events or comic book conventions. I love little kids, man. I really do, he said. The city has changed and it's hard to find an ultra tag on the street anymore. But Walker's content to see a different kind of Washington. Sponsored content using data to drive performance by digital marketing is the way of the modern advertising world. Teaming up with the right digital advertising agency benefits your business in many. You might also like the unusual link between eggs and diabetes. Health news tips. Today Singapore budget 2018, Singapore's population expected. Business Times. DPM Teo tells why the government had to step in. Business Times. 1 o'clock. Shape a happier tomorrow with Toshiba Solutions. Toshiba APAC. Who knew? Putting probiotics on your face can actually. Lancome on daily vanity-free samples. Experience advanced Genifique now and Lancome. Klay Thompson outraged over hard foul in pickup game. MercuryNews.com. Olivia Nova dies, latest in string of porn star deaths. MercuryNews.com. Angelina Jolie's royal outing in London. No Meghan. MercuryNews.com. Recommended by